Good morning again. Yes, this is Spirit Journey, and I'm on a roll right now. Um, I was just continue watching this program on the Secret Space program, and I'm reminded about about race. I already did two live streams this morning on racial matters that really was on my heart, that upset me greatly. So what I want to talk about with regard to the program and race, now I mentioned earlier in the early live stream about the cosmetology industry and the tattoo industry is racially segregated, okay? Now, of course, if you live in an area where you're the only, only group there, I'm not talking about that. I live in a very, very cosmopolitan area. The immediate area where I live has people from all over the world vacationing, working there, commuting there, who live there, all different varieties of colors. So what happened to me yesterday at the tattoo parlor, I think is inexcusable. So here I'm watching this program, and again, about racism. And that some things you may see is not really what it appears, and there's something more to racism. So I'm watching this program about the Secret Space program. I forget the man's name. He's Dr. Salas, I think his name is. Dr. Salas. And he interviews people who claim to have been abducted by UFOs or part of the Secret Space program. And he was talking about World War II. And he and other researchers, no, there was another person, not him specifically, but he's talking about World War II and how the Nazis, so you have to be careful. See, there's German people and then there's the Nazis of that day in World War II. And they're not the same. I mean, you can't blame a government, the people for the government. Okay, because if those people retaliated, they would have been killed also. So I want to make that known. There's a distinction between Nazis, Nazi collaborators, and just the general German population. But as many of us know, with the Nazi movement in the 1930s, was a group that took over the nation and imposed horrific experiments on its people. It started with the elderly, the handicapped, and then they started to get even more personal, what your race was. Now in Germany, they don't have a lot of black and Chinese people, but you had them there because Germany had colonies in Africa. So you had some of the African people from its former colonies that did live there, okay? But primarily it wasn't that many. But we all know that Germany had what they call the final solution policy, which made it legal to gather the Jewish population, and throughout Europe, where Germany had its dominion over, and to put them in ghettos, concentration camps, and we are told that millions of these people died. I think it's evil for people to take any person, regardless of their religion or race or anything like that. That is evil. So the condolences for those people who lost their lives under the Nazi regime of World War II. But either way, it was said that, and I heard this by more than one researcher of World War II, that Adolf Hitler did not die in the bunker in the 1940s. The latest news I heard yesterday was Adolf Hitler, he did live, he allegedly um, was in the Antarctic, where they have all the military bases of the Germans. There they have these special spacecrafts that they allegedly learned from beings from other worlds, and that organization, the Nazi Party, was also into the occult, and they acquired a lot of their knowledge, their technology from occult activities. And so they had allegedly had a base in Antarctic and developing these weaponry. Now, in I think Poland and other places, they had the concentration camps where a lot of Jews were forcibly put into, and other groups too. If you are Slavic, um, other nations, French people, all the so-called enemies, people that they, what they call prisoners of war, they were taken there, and they were forcibly worked there. It turns out, and what I'm gathering from this discussion with this Dr. Salas, the researcher, about the uh, what they call geopolitical stuff, that this Antarctic they were building these these underground bases where they were um, building all these spacecrafts. And so, this brings in the Jewish people. Now you wonder, why did they do these horrific things, these experiments on the Jewish people? Well, one thing in Germany, that the Jews of Germany did very well academically, and many of them were college professors, scientists, the top of the line uh, professionals of higher education. Who now, if it's acquiring bodies, see, you just can't get any so-called slaves. You have you have to have people who have technical skills. So they didn't just go in Africa or the West Indies, and acquire those type of slaves. You need a technical slave. Well, I speculate. See, it's all speculation on my part because I'm not physically there. I wasn't born then. But putting the pieces together. So they gather the Jewish people there because they had technological knowledge and skills with tools of precision to build those spacecrafts that you see. So this is from the 1930s and 40s. He came into power in the 1930s, and then the war ended, I think, in 1945. It was a 13-year period that the Nazi Party was um, held in power there. And 13 is a very interesting occult number, right? So either way, that's not by accident. So it's 13 years he was in power, Adolf Hitler, and he had what they call concentration camps / work camps, and the people were worked to death. Now the people weren't dying in gas chambers, because if you look at their bodies and everything, these people were skin and bones. Skin and bones. They were worked to death. They worked in underground bases. They worked in um, those big buildings where they could build those spacecrafts and everything. So it's really high ceilings and everything. And then when they died, they disposed of the bodies. Some of them were put into ovens and cremated. Others they made mass graves. They wanted to just get rid of the bodies. They were dying so quickly. And not everybody there was Jews. And again, like how you have today, that you have human trafficking. See, people always focus on the uh, transatlantic slave trade where they were human trafficking human beings, men, women, and children, to work on plantations and mines. Okay? But now this is the um, industrialized time, and so you don't need those plantations. You have machines to do it. But now you have these technologies, these spacecrafts and everything. And so the type of slavery is different now. Who's doing the work? But the outcome is still the same, death. That is the focus, is death. And so then I'm told now, in this program that I saw yesterday, that Adolf Hitler came from the Antarctic, where he was initially, and then he moved to Argentina, that's in South America, and then it was said that in 1968, Adolf Hitler was brought to the United States for medical treatment, and that he died here in the United States. So then I started thinking, well, wait a minute. You're telling me that a mass murderer like Adolf Hitler and his white German supremacy, what do you call it, Aryan supremacy, allowed him in the country, and in the United States of America, you have many, many Jews who was born in Europe at the time of the World War II, and they're going to allow this guy in the United States? Because remember, like in the 1960s and 70s, you were hearing about the war criminals, and that they had tracked down a war criminal and put him out on trial. Remember that? Remember also a movie called The Boys from Brazil? It was a movie about the scientists who were doing these tests on the indigenous population there in South America, Brazil, and that the cloning of Adolf Hitler, that's what it was really about. So if the story of Adolf Hitler being true, that he was brought to the United States in 1968 and died, why wouldn't any Jewish person talk about it and expose it? And many scientists in the United States are Jewish. Many of them are in top positions in the colleges of medical science. All this stuff. Okay? This is during the time people are really sensitive. The racial climate in the 1960s in the United States was very particular. But I'm reminded also, what happened in 1968? Well, what happened in 1968, wasn't that the year that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated? Isn't that the same year? Isn't in the 1950s was the start of what they call the civil rights movement? And then you have all the fighting and everything, and then King's assassination in 68. Why did this happen? And why would you let a war criminal like Adolf Hitler in the United States and give him medical treatment? Why wasn't he put on trial? So the question thickens. Why was he brought here in the United States? And why didn't any Jewish organization, yes, hello viewer, welcome, welcome. Yes, so why would he be allowed here? And why all these movies that were made of him? Now, when I watch movies about Adolf Hitler, documentaries, or just movies about him, he's never really vilified. He's actually glorified. And many people in the motion picture industry and television and the FCC are people of the Jewish faith. And lawyers, people who are in government, are people of this background. And they're going to let a war criminal like Hitler in the United States. I become confused. So I have to use my logic and reason. What's really going on? Was Hitler really just the bad, bad German man who has an axe against the Jewish population? Or are they all in cahoots? He was of the occult, and you have occults of different practices amongst different European groups. And I think what really happened was that it was just a cover story. What happened to the Jews was a cover story. It really happened, the Holocaust, to some degree of the putting in the concentration camps and being worked to death. But it's all about the cover-up of the secret government, the secret bases that are being implemented here in the United States and all over the world. And so it doesn't really matter if you're Jew or Gentile, because you're working for a purpose. The what do you call the Illuminati or whatever what you want to call it. I can't stand that term, but the secret government. And they all work together. So it doesn't matter what religion, because you have people of different religions, but you're all about the same purpose. And their purpose was World War II, according to my understanding with these new data that's coming out, was about a human sacrifice. Again, these are all people in the occult. And in the occult, with some practices, it requires, again, as I said, a human sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, and it required a big number of blood spilled so that you could use your magic, and the magic was to obtain a new country called Israel. That's what it was all about. Getting land over there and taking dominion over that land, over the population who's living there in peace. You never heard of any suicide bombers at that time in World War II. Suicide bombers of Arabs and things like that. They were just basic people. Yes, in other countries in the Arab-speaking world, they do have slaves, black slaves. But were people in that part, even with all that slavery in the Arab-speaking world, did you hear of suicide bombers and all that? No, you did not. But you only heard about these suicide bombers after World War II, when it pertains to Israel. Okay? So, all this drama that happened in World War II was to acquire, get the human sacrifice, the blood sacrifice, then you get the country. In this case, it was forming a nation called Israel, and also This is a smoke screen when right after they got the nation of Israel, then it's the 1950s. And what happened in the 1950s? You had all the race riots in the United States. Well, how come you didn't have it before World War II? I thought everything was supposed to be good right after slavery and the blacks were starting to be able to vote and all that, and you had what they call Black Wall Street. So blacks were doing well, relatively well, in a segregated society because they had their own society. But all of a sudden, this shift happened in the United States, and now black people are the focal point about racial intolerance. But Adolf Hitler is still alive. And you know what else was going on in the 1950s? They're building the bases in Antarctica. And they're funneling money, hidden money, into these activities. So you don't question it because now you're focusing, the television news of the day and the radio is just focused on black people getting squirted with water guns, right? And the police dogs biting on a teenager's tummy, right? That's what they want to show you and traumatize you and make black and white people in America uncomfortable towards each other. Like we're aliens. We've been in the Americas as long as white people in the Americas, but we're treated like we're the aliens. And so what happens? It was a smoke screen. And yes, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Mason as well. Just like, what's his name? Malcolm X. He was a Mason also. And what happened to both of them? In their Masonry assignment, what happened to both of them, they had an assignment. And their assignment was to do what you saw happening. And then once they were finished, they exterminated them, both of them. So everybody is looking at the race card in America, while in actuality is to distract you from the hidden activities that the government is doing with regard to this space and the weaponry. So if you're too busy looking at each other and fighting because what someone's skin color is or hair texture, you're not occupied with really important. Where your tax money is going, and building all these facilities, and there is still human trafficking going on and on. Who's building all these bases and things like that? You are. They're using all types of people. All types of people. And you think it's just a coincidence again with President Trump? Yes, hello viewer, you are welcome. You can just type in and say hello, so I can give you an official hello back. But yes, all of a sudden, you have President Trump now talking about he wants to open up a sixth branch of the military, the Space Force, which will be implemented, he said, within 1 year. That's when he wants to put it on, in 1 year. Why does he mention it now? Why? Because now the time is coming. They're human trafficking. They got to get the slaves from somewhere to build those spacecrafts, the underground bases. You got to get them from somewhere. It's nothing new. I personally had seen one of these spacecrafts, the Black Triangle, a little over a year ago. I personally saw one flying south over Manhattan. That's in New York City. So things are timing, being precision in a certain way. And again, they were pushing the race issue, right? All these race issues in the United States. And here now, all of a sudden, he's going to build this space force. Well, you already have a space, uh, you know, a secret space force. If all these other interviewers on the space program is telling the truth. So again, it's a part of disclosure, and the disclosure is something that's already going on. It's just going to now be in the next phase. What that next phase is going to entail, I don't know. But I think the whole point of this is, look, now listen to this. Like, here, I can't even get a tattoo artist who's well known in the field, and he can't do a black person and tell me, well, I don't want to use color on you. I do color. I don't really want to do black and gray. I mean, my specialty is color tattoos. But yet in his website, he asked the client in his, you know, advertisement. He says, request what you want. Do you want it? What elements in it, in the tattoo, and whether you want a color tattoo or black and gray. But when I'm there, oh well, I do color. Yes, he does color, and he does beautiful work. He wins a lot of the awards, top awards in his field of tattoo. But my skin color is saying, he's saying, no, I'm not going to do you. Oh, it's not my specialty. So, wow. So here, how are you going to, if you can't deal with me, how are you going to be dealing with an alien from another planet who maybe has green skin or blue skin, who has scales, who has a tail? You're so blind and foolish. So blind and foolish out there. Yes, there are other beings out there that look who knows how many ways. But yet you don't want to do somebody's hair because of their race. You sound so foolish out there. Yes, this video also is really a continuation of the 2 live streams I did earlier today, and how foolish humans are, and how foolish you have some people who are more willing to do the hair of a dog rather than a human being. How foolish. So just know for what you are, a fool, a foolery. And when that secret space program no longer is a secret, and you're going to be introduced to aliens that look very different from you, how could you deal with them and you can't even deal with me, a mixed race black person in America? Shame on you. So this is just food for thought about the politics of this World War II, Adolf Hitler, the secret space program, and how if we can't deal with ourselves, how are you going to deal with the next phase of civilization that's going to include beings from other planets and other dimensions? So just think about that, okay? So I wish to still promote love, love for all races, nationalities, religions, because love prevails and hate only gobbles itself up. So promote love, love yourself, Kiss yourself in the mirror, hug yourself, love the texture of your hair, your skin, your mouth, everything. That no matter what someone does to you in life, you always have you, and you are perfect. So take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye, guys.